You are.
And welcome to the show. Thanks for singing us in, Sam.
You're welcome. That's
So do you
what
ever,
I'm here for.
Yeah. Do you ever think about all the weird stuff that you used to believe was true that now you think is complete nonsense?
Yeah.
Which is weird. When we had the debate over sucking a bag of dicks was when this idea came to my head. I was like, you've done.
Oh my God, what a lead on. Twinkle, twinkle, little star and talking about a bag of dicks. Sign me up.
Sign me up. No, I used to believe so much silly shit was fact at one point in my life.
Yeah.
It's like, are we geared to think that the things we believe are facts up until a certain point?
But we're still dumbasses and we still believe stuff that's not true. It's just the context is different, right? So if you think about it and like the evolution of humanity, it's like the things that we believe to be true right now, both you and I, are actually so ridiculous. But we don't know that it's ridiculous yet. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. When I was 6 years old and I believed there's monsters under my bed, I didn't think that was ridiculous because it was a truth for me. I was like, of course there is.
It was in the spectrum of reality.
I was like, of course there's monsters under my bed, Mom. No, you don't understand.
You don't understand.
Right? But like, and then today, like the things that I believe that are just so ridiculous, I convince myself that they're absolutely true. And I know 2 years from now, I'll be like, oh, that's so ridiculous. Why did I believe that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You know what I mean, Jilly
Yeah.
Bean?
No. So what are the biggest things that you've overcome when we talk about things you thought you used to think were essences or stable pieces of your being?
Last week I finally overcame my fear that monsters were under my bed.
Just last week?
Yeah.
I need some after we get off after the show. I need some help wrapping that up because I'm more of the closet monster, but.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I read this meme the other day and it was like, if you're ever afraid to be alone, just watch a scary movie by yourself at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it's like you think that there's people everywhere.
No, it's terrifying.
Something that, a fear that I've overcome. That was the question.
Or I wouldn't say a fear, just like a false belief.
A false belief that I've overcome. I think recently it was like this limitation of like how successful I can be. You know,
Okay.
it was like, okay, but up until that number, like I don't need to be any more successful than that. That's enough, you know? And the truth of the matter is it's like, I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Really?
I can make as much money as I can build the biggest business that I want. And it's like, I've given myself permission to do that. And like, that's been really cool. It's because I think the lack and the limitation wasn't my belief. It was like the beliefs that were passed on to me or society beliefs or whatever it was. And so recently my imagination and my ability to be a visionary has like tenfold because I have just fully allowed myself to be in the land of what if.
What if?
You know, what if?
Right.
And like there's no limitation. There's no limitation. The only limitation I have right now is like my mind being like, I'm not sure that's possible. Right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's your biggest limitation is your boundaries of imagination.
My boundaries of imagination is my biggest limitation because I literally have proven to myself over the last 3 years that like I can crush some like epic shit if I just get out of my own way. And this is not exclusive to just me. Anybody can do this if they get
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
In whatever field that they find valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever field they find valuable and whatever is, you know, in alignment with their values. And I'm fortunate enough that my business is such a reflection of my values. It's such a reflection of me and the impact that I want to create in the world. And so from there, it's like, I feel like I'm just like supported so hard by the universe because it's like, this business is actually changing people's lives. Right. And so that mixed with like my ruthless dedication that like I can do whatever I want is a nice little recipe, you know?
You can do whatever I want.
Why am I drinking hot tea when it's 30 degrees outside and I'm sweating?
It's so hot right
It's
now.
so hot.
Yeah.
We're sitting on my couch with like furry blankets and it's so fucking hot.
We've set up an environment for heat, for warmth in the hottest day of California history. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay as long as you don't get offended by the damp. I've used the word damp and moist in the past hour way too many times. So yeah.
Oh my God.
So these self-limiting beliefs really aren't they're not fears necessarily. That's the fears are easy almost. Like fears are easy to identify. You can almost identify the feeling of a fear coming up in you with very minimal self-work. It's like that's one of the first things. It's the low-hanging fruit when it comes to self-work is identifying fears. But identifying false beliefs is super challenging because those go to the next level.
And those two can be fairly like confusing in the system.
Absolutely.
Right? Like if like because a fear is like, okay, well, that's just a rational fear. Like, of course, that's not true. But the sensation in the body can be very similar to like those deep core beliefs.
Yeah.
And so it takes us time to look at it objectively and just be like, is this a fear, or is this like something that's actually perceived to be attached to my identity? But it's like the idea that it's attached to identity, because there's actually nothing attached to us at all. Like at the core, we're all just beings of light and love. That's it. And we just have
it's a construction of the ego.
Yeah. Exactly. So.
Same with the identity, your ego kind of builds this identity throughout your life based on experiences and whatever it can, and the opportunity it has to build this kind of like puzzle of what your identity is. And it's funny when you get closed off to that, and the one thing that will trigger people the most is when you threaten their identity. You see a ton of that in politics, or just talking to your parents. In my case, especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's wild. And do take a step back and look at that and be like, oh, I can make the decisions. I get to make the decisions and be the boss of this.
What happens when you talk to your parents? What gets triggered?
Oh no, just my dad is actually in jail. I don't think I've ever said that on the podcast. And we're actually like cool friends, but my mom and I have like a really interesting relationship where there's a lot of like underlying shame because she wasn't really around when I grew up. And so there was a lot of things that went on in her personal life. And I totally try to empathize with that as best I can. But whenever I bring up those kind of like, try to push her a little bit and like try to expose her to herself a little bit, like that like shame trigger comes out in a way that I've noticed within myself for a lot of my life. So I only see it. Only reason I can see it, it's hard to communicate this. The only reason I can see it is because I've seen it within myself too.
Absolutely.
I'm not being critical. I'm trying to be like compassionate, but it's like that's through that lens. You can only see it through that lens, and it's an interesting situation. But that happens all the time. That happens all the time with all kinds of people, and it's hardest when it's the people that you love and the people that you're closest to.
That's so true.
And romantic relationships see a lot of this too, because you especially when they go on for a while and you get really close, like you start to see past the superficial layers, and then there lie the insecurities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the challenge comes: can you love those? Can you be compassionate for those when you actually have a connection to someone's soul?
Oh gosh, intimacy. It's a beautiful thing. I think our family is like a beautiful. Like our family's beautiful teachers, you know, like they never go away. And so as long as we can look at it like, okay, this person is teaching me something, you know, this person is teaching me something. All they're just a mirror for me. And if I can like acknowledge the trigger that they created and go, oh, okay, well, there's some obvious wounding here, or like some healing that needs to be loved, whatever it is, then we can like alkalize those feelings. But what happens for me most of my life, I was like, my brother sucks. He's so mean to me. Oh my God, I hate him. And then as soon as I was like, oh no, he's just showing me what I'm not willing to see myself. It was like, oh, and it just kind of like diffused the whole situation.
Because the things that you see in other people that you like and dislike are just reflections of what you have inside of you that you like or dislike.
And that's sometimes the hardest part is like you see someone and they're just, you know, they're just a class A asshole, and you're like, damn it. There's something in them that's in me. Yeah. You know, coming to that realization.
That's the hardest, yeah. Well, and you also know what's weird when I've had a lot of clarity in those circumstances is understanding they treat people outside of themselves way better than they treat themselves. Like in that whole scenario, they're treating themselves way worse than they're treating you, even if they're being huge assholes. You know, and that's when you look at it through that lens, you can have compassion for them in that as well.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. I think the first step to even getting there is having compassion for yourself. You know, that's something you talk about a lot in your work that I really resonate with. That's the reflection of myself that I see in you.
Yeah, thank you. It's the best work ever.
Yeah,
it truly is. And there's a difference between I realized this about a year ago. There's a really difference between like thinking about being compassionate, you know, and keeping it at a logical level, and then actually viscerally feeling the felt sense of compassion and what that is. Two hugely different things, right?
Okay, yeah.
So like a lot of people there's a lot of people preaching how important compassion is, and it is. But what's happening is people aren't actually getting the felt sense, the visceral sense of what it is, because they're just thinking about it. They're not actually dropping down into
intellectual
their bodies,
compassion.
right? So it's like when people when people do gratitude journals, it's like, I'm grateful for this. Like it's like I'm doing this list just so I can like check it off and like get on with my day. But what makes that exercise so powerful and beneficial is like to actually feel the impact of what you're grateful for, really viscerally feel it at a deep level. Then that's how we raise our vibrations. That's how we get the benefits of the exercise. And it's very similar with compassion, is like how we choose to like integrate that idea has everything like that changes the game. Like I can be I'm like, oh, I'm compassionate towards Connor, like compassionate towards this. Okay, cool. But like, how do I really feel about it? You know?
Hey, do you have any moments where that transition was felt, where you realized like how, like what, because I'm sure you had intellectual, most people have this intellectual compassion first, right? And that's the dipping your toe in the water. But then when you actually feel it and touch it and grasp what that visceral compassion is, do you have any moments like that that's kind of shook you or rocked you or stand out?
Yeah, a lot.
All the time, every day. I'm pretty fucking compassionate.
Well, I think like I mean, I'm a huge empath.
Okay.
I'm like highly empathetic. And I didn't realize I didn't realize I was empathetic my whole life. You know, so I would be experiencing anxiety. I'm like, what am I anxious about? Like, I have nothing to be anxious about, but I would just be taking on people's energy. Right. And so when I identified what is my emotion, what someone else's emotion is, I could actually like look at someone and feel what they're feeling. And I still can do it now.
Yeah.
And it can be extremely overwhelming if I don't like turn it off. But like I could feel the sadness in people through just being in their presence. And it confused me at first because I'm like, is this my sadness? I got nothing to be sad about. But it was just me taking on their energy. And so being able to identify that and be like, wow, that person is legitimately, they're so sad. They're so, you know, they're so like depressed. Like they feel so horrible about themselves. I'm like, and then I was like, imagine what that would be like every single day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sad. Right. It's so through my natural empathetic nature, I learned how to feel people and how to actually be with their pain and be with them, not take it on, but just be with it. And then that's what kind of led me to really feel compassionate towards people. So, you know, when people, you know, yell at you or scream at you or whatever, it's just like they're hurting. Hurt people, you know?
Yeah. Hurt people.
Yeah, they do.
That's great.
You know, and it's like, it's not about you. It's about the fact that they're hurting, they're wounded, and they need to be loved, right?
Yeah. We need a lot more hugs.
No more hugs.
A lot more hugs in this world.
Hugs. I love being hugged. We were talking about physical touch earlier.
Yeah, you give really good hugs, by the way.
Really? Thanks. Yeah. I love hugging.
Yeah, first hug I was like quality hug right here.
Hugs over handshakes.
Hugs over handshakes. I think we've have about 3 T-shirts now that could be created from the first 12 minutes of this podcast. No, but yeah, that's great. So you wrote Hungry for Happiness. Now, having your empathetic nature and then with this relationship with other people, and then you had a really interesting relationship with food as well. Talk us through your journey there.
Yeah, totally. So my background, I was a child actress and a dancer. So my whole life I was on film sets doing that jam. And when I stopped doing that, I felt like I'm completely untethered. I'm like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? What's my purpose in the world? Like, why am I, you know, it's like going from like a highly, it was like, I want to say like it was in demand. Like there was always something for me to do, and like I had an identity, or so that identity thing. So I completely lost my identity.
Yeah. And how old were you?
18.
18. Okay, great.
And I went to Australia, went traveling, all that kind of stuff. I lost my identity, and I was trying to find my identity, my significance, my certainty through other channels. And unfortunately, my channel was like, well, if I just get really skinny, then I'll find my identity, then I'll find my significance. And so that was like the start of my like the dodgy relationship with food, like over 50 diets in less than 4 years, like constantly dieting, not knowing how to use food just for health and hunger. It was a sticky situ. So after that, I was like, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this. It has nothing to do with the food. It's some inner stuff that I need to work on. And so I spent like 3 years just working on myself, working on my relationship to food, to my body, trying to figure out, you know, the bigger questions that scared me to ask. And after that, I healed my relationship to food and my body, and I thought, like, this stuff just needs to be taught. Like, I need to take responsibility for bringing this message out into the world. And so that was like the birth of Hungry for Happiness.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what are some common themes that you see? And you work mostly with women. Mm-hmm. What are some common themes that you see in people's relationships with food, and how that is really, I mean, that's a manifestation of a need for control or something they have within themselves most often, right? Like, what are some common themes that you see?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times, well, a big one is a lot of people had sexual trauma.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When they were younger. Yeah. And so they use food, they use their physical weight on their body as a barrier to intimacy.
Okay.
That's more of like an extreme case.
That makes sense.
It's common though. It's very, very common. There's a high percentage of our community that has had some sort of sexual trauma, and now that could be like the severity of that trauma could be very. It could range, right?
Yeah.
From something so small to something as
Trauma is trauma, though.
Trauma is trauma, exactly. And so it's like, I don't want that to happen again. I need to create a physical barrier to intimacy. And so they use food as a drug to create that barrier because they think if they lose the weight that they're going to be vulnerable again.
That makes sense.
So that's a big one. And then people just not understanding how to use pain in their body, emotional pain in their body, as a catalyst for growth. And so they feel physically in pain. Stress, anxiety, tension, whatever it is. And they're like, I don't have the tools to deal with this. I need to eat to numb it. So food is slowly becoming like a common drug, right? And so that's a very, very common one as well. And gosh, just like general loneliness. Like loneliness is a theme that comes up a lot in our community, is like, when we fail to have connection with the self, we fail to have deep connections with others. And it's like that sense of like, I just need self-soothing. I just need to self-soothe right now. And food is an easy way for people to do that.
Well, it's always there.
It's always there.
It's always ready for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, yeah. I think that the barrier to intimacy is something that gets overlooked a lot. That also seems extremely common.
Totally. And the interesting thing is people come into our community and they're like, Sam, I have this food issue. I can't stop eating. I can't stop using food, whatever. And then when we dial it back a few layers and we realize like, oh, sexual trauma or whatever was the starting point of this, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. Yeah. Like someday you just don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's just 3 of the many, many, many reasons why people get into these behaviors and these patterns.
That makes sense. And there's a lot of shame around all this stuff too. Like when it comes to trauma, early life trauma, especially. It's weird if you were, I grew up with a really unhealthy relationship with food and family, and there was a lot of things going on. But it was almost like I felt like because I was a fat kid, right? And it was no part of my point in my life where I could go where I didn't feel like I was like accepted. Like it was like at home, it's like, oh well, they're kind of stressed out about it, right? Because it's like, well, this kid, it's like he's overweight, whatever, and then you can't really, having trouble making connections with like the opposite sex was really, you're like a goofy little fat kid, like trying to talk to girls is like, that's an archetype that we see in every movie from Little Rascals on, right? It's just kind of like a thing. It's a funny thing. And looking on it back on it now is really, really funny, but. It's interesting when you get yourself in a situation like that because it just manifests more disconnection and more like loss of intimacy when really what you need to heal some of that trauma is a healthy, strong, like deep connection with other people and friends, romantic relationships, and it just perpetuates more lack. 100%. It's crazy how that 100%, works.
Yeah. We talked about projection earlier, right? Negative projection and positive projection. Like if I was to project onto you, you're incredible, you're amazing, you're going to do amazing things, all that kind of stuff. It's like you would believe that and you would take it on.
You've been projecting that on me all day.
Have I? I have that effect on people. Yeah. I see people's light, I see people's like goodness. And I'm just like, all I want is for you to see what I see. I think that's part of the reason why I'm good at what I do is like I see someone and I'm like, I don't see any of your shit. I don't see any of that. I just see like the goodness in that person, and like I hold them to that standard. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Do people get frustrated with you sometimes?
Fuck yeah! Some people like my clients like full on like just get mad at me. They're because it's like it's my higher self fighting with their ego.
Yeah,
it's like I don't give a shit about your ego. Like I really don't. Like all I want,
fuck your ego, bro.
All I want is like figure out like what is going on here. Let me peel back the layers. Let me get to the core. Which is why I think I was telling you like I'm most effective in person. Like my group programs are amazing, online stuff, and like that's very accessible for people. But in person, it's like I can strip it down.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. I'm in the same way with my with my clients. It's most it's online. There's a few in person, but it's having that like, this is about you. Let's talk about you. And then when you bring this stuff up, like there's this mix of like gratitude and fear that come up out of people. It's like, this is what you're gonna do now. And they're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And then you see it in their face like, oh fuck yeah, let's do it. Like it's like, oh shit, I have to actually do it now because now we're looking at it. But that's to be on the receiving end and helping someone else with that and doing it with yourself as well, as like being that like rational, compassionate, like motivator. It's like, hey man, I'm going to be there for you for this, and I'm going to show you compassion, and you can tell me whatever you need to say. And just holding that space for people, I feel like is so valuable and so helpful. And to be that as a friend and as a parent, like there's so many, everyone has the capacity to do that. It just takes a little bit of work on yourself and recognizing when you're doing it. Yeah,
because a lot of times people just want to fix you, right?
Yeah, which makes you feel broken.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, she's crying. Stop it. That's like a whole thing of like, you asked me like, what are the common things? Like not being able to deal with pain, because we live in a world where if a kid's riding his bike down the street and he falls down and he scrapes his knee, he runs inside. His mom's like, oh my God, let's fix it. Let's get rid of it. Let's get rid of it. Right. Or like when you're growing up as a child, it's like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Don't emote. Don't show emotionality.
Especially as
like,
a man.
Totally. Right. Which 100%. And so we learn these structures of like being like, physical pain is bad. Emotional pain is bad. I need to get rid of, when I have it, I need to get rid of it. And that's our structure. So it's like when we can learn that actually pain is good, and we can be with that pain and we can heal that pain, that's ultimately how we grow into the highest version of ourselves.
Well, that, and you get to also experience a spectrum of feelings too. When you can feel your fear and feel your pain, it just broadens the possible spectrum that you can feel. You feel more love, you feel more compassion, you feel more of all the positive emotions as well. Like that, you're just broadening your spectrum of feels, and it's like, I just want to feel good all the time. Well, it's not really a thing. You need to learn how to just be with your feelings and feel the feels, they're there for a fucking reason. And maybe, this is something that our mutual friend Mike Bledsoe kind of called me out on. It's like sometimes feelings I feel like are irrational, but they're rational to others. But in your own world, in your own experience, they're a connection of rational events of your life experience up to this point that are just there, and you can choose to address them or ignore them, but they don't go away. I don't even think they go away when you address them and like kind of dissolve them. I don't feel like they go away. I feel like you then have a healthy relationship with something and turn it into a catalyst for growth.
That's it.
And the growth kind of overshadows that causation, but that's that leverage and that ability to turn that to, you say alchemize.
Alchemize.
That's a good word. That's a great word.
Thanks.
I'm adopting it. But turn pain and trauma into growth is beautiful. Yeah. And something we should be critical of our society as a whole. Like something we should be a little bit more aggressive as far as education on. That's a huge tool.
Yeah. Right? It's like, why the hell was I learning about like the bloody Vikings when I could have been learning how to deal with my emotions?
Vikings are pretty dope.
Yeah, Vikings are pretty dope. Okay, maybe not Vikings. Maybe like, the cooking class,
Yeah, there's so many things that it depends on what school you went to, but there's so many like why is communication class like, why do I not learn how to communicate better?
Yeah.
Like, who am I trying to communicate with?
Right.
Like, I don't understand. There should be like a listening and empathy class.
I took like a keyboarding class, for goodness sake.
I did too. Like, what?
Why?
I guess I didn't have the vision that I was going to be typing with my thumbs most of the time on a phone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we lack so much in education, and that's why I love. I mean, you see the way the trends are now with podcasts. Like we're sitting here talking now, and all the platforms that we utilize is a way to get a voice out there and educate.
Totally.
And may be the change, right?
Yep.
And when we have, I think about that in parenting a lot. That's one thing that really resonates with me is like your opportunity to like set these like little humans up for success. It's great.
I know. I'm so excited to be a parent.
I get more and more excited about it now. It's almost like making me like moderately uncomfortable where I'm like,
really?
I'll see kids and play with kids and I'm like, oh wow, this is like not that far away probably. This is weird. This is crazy.
Right. I babysat my girlfriend's newborn baby on Saturday. Babysat her for like 3 hours, and I was like, I'm not going to have one of these for 10 years.
Yeah, right.
Maybe not 10 years. I love kids so much.
Yeah, but I think, even 10 years isn't that long. I think that's what it comes down to. It's like if it's 5, 6, 8, it's like that's still like that flies by.
Totally.
That flies by so fast.
Totally. Yeah, we're gonna wake up and be like,
I remember when I was 12, it was a long ways away. That was like 20 someone, you know what I mean?
Right,
whatever. But
right,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think parenting is going to be like one of the most incredible things, though.
Absolutely.
Like whenever I'm around kids, I'm like, this is what it means to live They don't give a flying F about anything. Like I was down at the beach with my roommate the other day, and we were just like looking at these kids in the ocean, just playing and laughing and rolling and falling and joking around and running. And I'm like, that is all of us, you know? Like one of my mentors said to me yesterday, he was like, there's no such thing as adults, just grown-up children. And it's so true. And it's like, I think parenting is going to be one of those beautiful times where it's like that spark is ignited again, because we all have this like flame of like our inner child, like really wanting to like just be reckless and just have fun, and that's who we are. And like we have like all of these beliefs and patterns and like, you know, conditioning that like takes us away from like being that, which is what creates a lot of the frustration and resentment. You know,
it is, and we don't play enough anymore.
Oh my gosh.
How would not play? It's
that's like my.
We don't play because we're scared to skin our knee. If we're going to go into like kid talk, it's like you're scared to fall, and like it's like what? Like go climb a fucking tree. And that's such a great way to be present. Like if you're having trouble like finding like any kind of flow state or presence, like go to climb a tree. It's the best thing ever. Should we go
climb trees after?
I'm down.
Do you want to?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there any trees to climb around here?
I don't know. Go find. I see some trees out there.
Okay, we'll go climb.
Yeah, but yeah. It's just, we put that on hold. We learn to put that on hold because that's what we're told as part of growing up. Like fuck that noise. You know, I'll grow up the way I want to grow up. Let me decide how I want to do this.
What was your childhood like in Texas?
I actually had a really fun childhood. I was raised with my grandparents mostly, and it was a lot of property. So I had a couple 4-wheelers, which were really cool.
That's awesome.
And a big like pasture behind our house.
Really?
I don't know if everybody knows what a pasture is.
It's like a thing that cows hang out on.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like a big empty.
That was like the most layman's way of describing what a pasture is.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, but it's like there wasn't actually any cattle out there. There's like 2 horses, but it was like this big thing. There's like a tank or a pond out there. So we just like ride our bikes around, shoot slingshots, climb trees, jump on trampolines.
That's cool.
We used to take our little Red Ryder BB guns, like the ones that were on the Christmas Story. Well, we had a thing. I'm about to show my like roots here.
There we go.
So we had some stuff called spear grass, which is like it's like a tall little piece of grass, like a weed, but it has a little tip on the end that's sharp. And we would take the spear grass, just the tip, and just the tip is sharp on this guy. And we would empty all the BBs out of our BB guns and stick all the spear grass, like load the end of our spear grass, the BB gun with spear grass, and cock it so it'd just be shooting air with like a bunch of these little things, and sneak up behind my brothers when we were kids when they'd get out of the pool. And shoot them in the back with like a bunch of spear grass.
Oh my gosh!
And it would like barely stick in, right? It wouldn't like hurt them, but it kind of stung you for a second. And that was like one of the things.
How did you even think to do that?
That's what we had to do. It was like that was honestly of all the things we could have gotten into, like our parents were not that worried about that. Like it's like just don't set each other on fire and like jump off the house anymore. Like I started jumping off the house into the pool when I was like 12, and they're like, "This is
unsafe.
This is you guys need to calm down. This is getting a little bit out of hand." Yeah, the motorcycles and stuff didn't really help.
It's actually super valuable to think about like what lit us up as children and like what made us come alive, right?
Oh, super valuable.
That's one of the questions I ask my guests on my podcast is like, what makes you come alive? Because I think like we don't think about that as much. It's one of the most beautiful things, like the ability to feel alive and be in our power and just like do shit that's not productive, but just because it feels good, you know? And so it's like, what were you like as a child? Like what did that feel like? What did you like to do?
Yeah, and if you had even as an adult, like being creating awareness around that, like with the lifestyle design program that I run, like the first thing we work on is just like awareness of your state changes throughout the day, and we go from there into like creating experiences. But a lot of times you can start to track that down when you start to feel that like, oh, I'm feeling this change of state where I feel a little more playful, a little bit more fun, like a little bit more alive. I can start to track that down. Like, where's the root of that? And then I have that tool in my toolbox of like, this is the thing that I do. Like, I know now, like I started longboarding at 30. I talk about that a lot. It was like, super random. Yeah. I was like, I just like was on Amazon. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a longboard, and it's the most fun, but it was something that was extremely novel to me. Like one of the reasons I got it is because I could never ride a skateboard when I was young. My brother did, and I would always fall down because I was like heavier, and it's like the balance wasn't really there. I was kind of clumsy. And so I started riding this longboard, and it's like, it was just this completely different experience. One, because it was something I was actually scared of. I was scared to get on a skateboard of any kind because I would like falling down and like eating shit so many times on a skateboard, and it was great. And it was like keyed into that, and it was like I was just playing, and like, I could put myself whenever I was doing it, that's all I was doing. You know, I feel like there's something, and even when you find something that's playful and you can feel really alive doing it, you can learn how to channel that aliveness into all kinds of things. Like I can like truly say that longboarding and being present and finding out how to be more alive in that honestly helped like my sexual relationship.
For sure.
Because I just like, I was like the neurons that fire together, wire together, and I was wiring presence in my life. through play. There's something that's so silly and just whatever.
That's so good. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Do you find it hard to be present during sexual experiences?
No, I just think it was maybe at some points like in life, but I mean that's something I've put a lot of my I don't know, I just have it, like the connection with my partner now is just so strong and so palatable that it's like I love it. So I have this yearning desire to like bring the best of myself, and when you're with someone that you learn a lot from, and every day and every encounter, like quote unquote good or bad, which we can talk about how silly those terms are for experience, but it's just you feel like you just want to bring it all to that, in the moments that you have, and they become really, really special to you, even though you never know how many you're gonna have left.
That's
maybe
true.
it could be 60 years, it could be 5 minutes, but it's
true.
It's cool when you start to really, when you become present, you start to really understand that a little bit more, and that's the beauty in it, really. I mean, that's something special, and a lot of us have that right in front of our fucking faces, and we don't even see it all around us. Like every human interaction is a little baby connection, or a huge one, and it could turn into something big. Totally. But if you're not actually there, it's gonna fly right by you.
I know,
and that happens so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, even we sit here and we have the itch to like be a personality or a presence like out in the world. And a lot of people don't have that or don't really have that desire. And that's awesome too. But it's just treating every human interaction like a human interaction can be extremely valuable.
100%.
And just treating it like a little, that little interaction, that little connection that you're going to have will in some way, maybe it may be so small, but in some way have something to do with the rest of your life in this realm that we're in.
Yeah. And we're all starving for connection.
You're addicted to what you're connected to, That's something JP Sears talks a lot about. Like that's it. Like whether that be
go into that a little more.
Yeah, so he is very transparent, and we're in an age of where transparency is becoming very valuable. That's really the reason that you and I can do what we do. It's authentic and transparent. That combination is really, really valuable in our world because we've been so fucking thirsty for it. Like our culture's thirsty for transparency, and when you can bring that to people, they reflect transparency, and that feels good. So whenever you create an environment where authentic transparency is valuable and that can be brought to the surface of people, and you'll see this a lot when you have a communication with someone and they say something that they may have been, they get comfortable enough with you and you've been authentic with them, and they say something they may have been judged for previously, and you hold space and kind of are grounded for that interaction and bring your best self to that with no judgment, you essentially open the floodgates, because then everything, like things that it'll be so much easier for that person to like tell you the things that they feel shame for within themselves, and they can hear themselves say it, and man, it's fucking powerful when you can hear yourself say the things that you know you need to say, and maybe they're fucking ridiculous, maybe they're false truths that you think that are just hiding in your consciousness, but once you hear them come out of your mouth, you're like, wow, that's fucking silly, and that's all you needed was that little bit of acknowledgement. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so interesting when we speak out our fears. What we love to do here at the Babe Dome.
The Babe Dome. And by the way, the Babe Dome is your house.
The Babe Dome's my house. That's where we're at right now. I love the Babe Dome.
I'm a big fan of the Babe Dome.
I
feel like if one of these rooms opens up, like I got dibs.
How about this room? It needs its own postcode. It's so ridiculously large. It's like so ridiculous. Anyway, I moved in here with 2 suitcases into this massive room. I'm like, okay, I need some stuff.
I think it's great. I think you're doing a great job.
But one thing we talk about at the Babe Dome with the girls here is like this whole concept of it's okay to voice the shit that is in our minds that is just so untrue. Like being unlovable. Everyone and their dog feels unlovable at some degree. So why don't we just bring light to it and just like talk about what that actually feels like, And like when we do that, it's like, oh, it's actually not that big of a deal because everyone feels that.
I think I call that like searching for like Me Too's. Like everybody wants empathy and be able to say that and be like, and I had this in Aubrey's Go For Your Win course, which is my kind of first introduction to really like doing lifestyle design with people, is that men in particular would write the whole caption of the group, and the group is closed and everybody in there is super vulnerable, and they would write the whole thing, and I didn't know this till the end of the graduation. We all got together and not post it. They would delete it all, but like no one fucking cares. This is fucking stupid. And they would delete this whole, they would like say everything they were feeling and just type it out. I'm sure I had a little bit of therapy, but I'm like, man, if you just would have hit enter and like posted that shit to the page, someone else has that same issue. I have that same issue. And I know, and I've talked to everybody here, like there's a lot of, especially men in this community that have that same issue, and they do the same thing. Like there's a guy on the other end doing the same thing, typing it out and not being able to post it. And because that vulnerability is so
Why do you think it's
hard.
so difficult for men to be vulnerable?
Well, it's just, I think we take things that are biologically kind of ingrained in our gears, right? Like we're geared up to not need to do that in a lot of ways, but then our society kind of piles it on. But instead of like having a healthy relationship with like our stoic masculine sense, we shame vulnerability and fear. But it's really, we're just overcompensating for the fact that we don't have these like outward expressions of masculinity. I really feel like that's a part of it. Like even now, like there's a lot of like, what did your shirt say earlier? The future is female.
Future is female.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of things where even now, like I, as a large man, like have a trouble sometimes. Like I don't want to seem too. I almost have to like soften myself a little bit. You know, we don't get to have these like overt expressions of masculinity, so we don't get to feel comfortable enough. I feel like you have to have both. I feel like if you're hungry for that masculine expression, then it's going to make it a lot easier, counterintuitively maybe, but it may make it a lot easier for you to swing into like the feminine and be a little more vulnerable, because like, oh, well, I just went and chopped down a fucking tree, so now I can come in here and talk about my feelings, and I feel like oh, I put in my man time, so I can have my vulnerable time, because there are those other, I mean, take male female out of it, like it's a masculine and feminine kind of expression of self.
When was the last time you cried?
Just the other day, last week, I cried probably. I would say I cry like once on average, like once every 2 weeks.
That's so cool.
That's been new though. Like like I've had.
In your early 20s, you didn't cry?
I did every now and then. I've never had a hard time. I haven't been like, I'm not. So one of the perks of being like a big dude is that some people are hiding behind it. I just am. I don't have to like. It just that had nothing to do with it. It had nothing to do with my amazing bone structure and my large size. That just is how it was. But is that I don't have to like try too hard to like be a man. You know what I mean? It just kind of is. So I get to kind of like go like have like a very blue jungle book style. And so for me, I don't have any fear. I don't have a lot of fear around that. And I haven't really. I've always kind of had a light go at it. But I know some guys who are like, well, not fucking. They'll choke them back. They'll choke them back all the time. And recently, so I was raised with my grandparents. Like I said, my grandmother passed away, and some things happen there where just like I'll have these like waves and just have to cry. Like I'll like Mother's Day was really weird, where I would be like, oh shit, I need to call mom, and be like, oh yeah, mom's dead. Like that was like they had those little, and that would like happen like a few times during the day, because you're like, oh yeah, it's Mother's Day, shit. And so like there's times like that when I'll let it go, and then there's sometimes when I get like real bound up and I feel real like tangled. And like a good, like just crying even by myself or with someone like Liv, who like just really that can be there and like hold space. But it usually happens whenever either I'm super grounded or I'm with somebody who's super grounded. Yeah. And I feel like, okay, I can let go now.
Okay, I'm safe now.
And a lot of times I'm the grounding force, or like I get, you know what I mean? It's nice to be like, okay, I can like let loose. Like our mutual friend Jill Coleman is a very like strong like grounding source. So whenever I get around her, like I can like let go a little bit, which is nice. And then she can do the same for me, because we kind of piggyback off each other in that way, which is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I love Jilly.
Jill's great. We have great friends.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky.
When's the last time you cried?
Oh gosh, yesterday. I was in a healing session with my spiritual teacher.
That whole sentence is just fucking awesome.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I realize like there's a few things in life that I absolutely have to do on the regular basis, and going for energy healing is 100% one of them, because I take on so much energy of like hundreds of women a week,
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, gosh, it was a really powerful session. He's like a friggin' wizard. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
He's amazing. And so
what kind of work is it? Like what kind of energy healing does he do?
So have you ever heard of stick work?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's like this mentality that he uses.
Probably not the kind that you're talking about. Probably not the kind that you're talking about.
You're like, I got my own kind of stick work. So we do a lot of that. He's just an incredible being. And so I learned a lot of things about like my inner child and how she was hurting and how she needed help and things like that. And it was just really sad. It was really cool though.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
amazing to like uncover those things about yourself and be like, okay, cool. I now get to heal this part of me.
So talk a little bit about, what do you think about the inner child?
So
where does little Samantha live?
Oh God, she's at the forefront of every single day. I think there's a huge chasm between our inner children and our adult selves. You know, I think like they're so disassociated. Like we don't recognize that. Like I said, all of us are just grown up children. You know, in adult bodies, and we're to a certain degree like we're all wounded and we're sad and we're scared and we're having a shit fit and we're all of these things. And what ends up happening is like we tend to act out of that place if that place isn't parented by our adult self. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so we all have this responsibility, if we choose to do it or not, to mother or father our inner children, because they did not get the parenting a lot of the times that we really needed as children. And so we now have this opportunity and this responsibility, if you ask me, to really look at the parts of us that are wounded and need healing and be there for one another. And so I've done my best to just like be the best mother I can to my inner child, and that's what makes that.
I love the way you language that. That's
what makes me powerful. You know, it's like really not denying her needs.
Yeah,
because she's like I had I'm fortunate to say like I had an amazing childhood. I have 4 incredible parents. I have a mom, a dad, a stepmom, and a stepdad who are all very, very wonderful people, and so, but still in that structure. You still have trauma as a child.
It does, yeah. There's no like nobody that is raised without some kind of like that. Because I mean, our family structures right now aren't really geared up to have a full spectrum of parenting, right? I don't honestly don't believe that we're meant to have like. I mean, you're meant to have 2 like paternal parents, right? But we're not raised in communities the same way we were. So there's like this lack of well-roundedness. So there's these big gaping. There's like these gaping voids, just because your parents aren't perfectly rounded out spectrums either. So when those things, you start to feel those things and you feel guilt for those things, and there's kind of this weird cycle that you fall into.
Yeah. Do you see gaping?
Gaping.
That's such a funny word.
It is kind of a funny word.
Whenever people say gaping, like my mind immediately goes sexual. I don't know why gaping would be a sexual thing, but it's.
I think you just any excuse you have. I think you go there.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Me too.
There's a few.
It's my inner child. My inner child like love to make dirty jokes.
Sorry, my inner child's a pervert. No, I'm just kidding. Like there's a few words that I just like giggle at: gaping, moist, panties, and gooch.
You know what? I think the funniest. I love this. We've covered the full spectrum of existence with this conversation, by the way. But you know the words that we've come up with for like cum and or like hard-ons is like the funniest shit. Like any of our sex anything has the weirdest like names. Like I can't like write the word titties down and like not like crack a smile. And it's like, you want to like text somebody something. It's like, there's like, what words do I use here? Like breasts. I don't know. That doesn't make sense either. It's like, so you just have to be playful with them. If you're not having like really playful sex, by the way, there's a segue into that. Like if you got to laugh sometimes when you're having sex, and you got to like, don't take yourself too fucking serious. I think that's one of the biggest things that people do is take themselves too serious I want to say in the bedroom. We'll say that as a figure of speech.
Yeah,
but do it other places too. But yeah, it's like I think that's something that where your inner child can come out.
No pun intended. Sorry. Yes. I'm so pleased with myself.
But it's easy. Yeah, people there's a lot of shame around sex. A lot of shame. I grew up with that. We both grew up with our. Are you still religious in the Christian sense of things?
No, like
it's
interesting. I grew up in a very Christian home. We went to church every single Sunday. I went to like private. What's that thing called? Summer school. You know, where we like sang.
What's it called?
Sang church school.
Do you remember any songs?
Yeah, hang on.
I know which one you're going to sing.
He came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth.
And it's funny because they say like the songs that kids sing at like Christian summer camps, like they could sing songs about like, you know, treating people with like respect and compassion. But it's like, no, like you have to believe this magical shit.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man, give them something else here. Like,
right?
Did we really put 2 of each animal on a fucking boat? No, let's be right. Let's take that's kind of like, that's cool. We can have that there too. That's also like Hindus have this kind of has some really cool mysticism as well. But it's like, can we just take the good stuff and like leave that behind for a minute?
And that's what I've done is I've
Exactly.
extracted everything good that came out of my upbringing as, and I was like, how does this work for me?
Exactly.
So I went from, it was interesting. I went from like very religious, no sex until marriage type of thing. Did
you have that intention at some point?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too.
That's why I didn't lose my virginity until I was 19 to my boyfriend of 5 years,
Yeah.
So like I was like in it.
How long were y'all dating before you guys hooked up?
That's a great question. I want to say like 3 months or something.
Oh, see, dude, you're lucky. You broke it up, or you broke it early. But if I was 19.
But I was 19, right?
Yeah.
So it was a little bit. I was like,
When you're that age too, it's like this idea that that's wrong, and you don't want to do something wrong, and then you're probably in like a youth group community where like you don't think anybody else is like, am I the only one that's like getting these random like boners all day? Like this is weird.
Am I the only one that's getting?
And everyone is, and it's like
I've never had that thought. But.
No, that's me. That's me projecting that on everyone else. Like, but no, it's funny because you surround yourself with that. So you're like almost like in this insulated kind of shame container. Where just
totally.
The only thing that really irks me at this point is like the leveraging of fear and shame for like your own devices, because for your own personal benefit as a religion. And that's, I get it. And I get that's the system, and people don't see it that way. And they can only see it through their lens. But there's a lot of odd things around that where I had like a really unhealthy relationship because I didn't have a really solid and well-rounded understanding of like sex and how to express myself and what it might feel like to be sexually frustrated at 16. Where it's like that's what your like monkey brain is like full on, let's do this for 90 seconds to 2 minutes maybe. And but you got this. Come on. Focus. But then you're like, you don't know that like, if you don't, get off every now and then as a 16-year-old boy, you might turn into a completely raging like asshole and like be rude to people for no reason because you're like your hormones are going absolutely crazy and they just tell you to keep it under control and like pray about it. And it's like, come on the fuck on, dude. That's not the way this works.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I actually swung. I went from like super, super religious to like completely atheist for a long time. I just checked out. I was like, peace. I checked out. And then as I was coming out of like my disordered eating issues, I then I came back in, but it was more like I created it for what felt right for me.
When you take, you're probably looking at more religions than just one too, to pull the things out of that, right?
Oh yeah, it's more like spirit. Like I'm highly spiritual. I'm not religious.
You're like more spiritual than most people.
Me?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I
am.
Like I like to let people know that how much more spiritual I am than them.
Oh yeah, I'm so much more spiritual than you.
Especially when I'm at Whole Foods. Like if I'm the most spiritual person at Whole Foods, I feel really accomplished.
Oh my god, you're gonna love it here. I can't believe you've never been to Encinitas.
This
is like the land of hippies.
Shout out Encinitas. Yeah, it's like life coaches and hippies galore everywhere. Well, we'll see how it goes. I need to have my moments of being the most spiritual in the room.
You're the most spiritual on this couch. How about that?
I am?
I think so.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
I saw you drink that coconut water. It was legit.
Yeah, was it? It was magical. My chakras are hella aligned right now. My coconut water chakra is like super
mushroom
plenished.
tea. That's like another legit thing.
Yeah, I don't think I've had anything that had anything to do with animals. Oh no, I ate some chicken. We ate some chicken. And based on the documentary What the Health, we're probably both going to get diabetes now.
Probably.
Yeah, from the chicken, which is weird.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that makes a lot of sense.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
I'm
just going to eat tacos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the rest of my life.
That's real talk. That's what we do in Austin. That's a thing.
God, seriously.
So anyways, we're talking about losing our virginities, which is actually how this podcast started, with a conversation about losing virginities.
Really?
Not this one, but this show.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. Went down. Yeah. Wow. But anyway, so you're 19, you're 3 months in. See, I was the other way around. I was dating a girl who was like 14 when I was 16, and I'd already lost my virginity. So I had like this like shame container there, and then didn't have sex for like 4.5 years, something like that. So I was like 21. And then, it was really weird. It was this really weird relationship. And I think a lot of the frustration around that was why I was like, listen, guys, this whole thing doesn't make sense. And I was in youth groups into college too. And I started feeling like, and this is just the specific one that I was a part of at the time, was like they were leveraging the fact that I was kind of like well-spoken and a big like kind of charismatic dude, to like, they wanted me to lead these things. But I was looking around and be like, that's not an appropriate role for me in this like group. Like I play volleyball and we have a good time and I'll be positive, whatever. But like this dude over here who's kind of like pudgy and weird looking is way more into this shit than me, and way better like educated on what's going on. So I started realizing that they wanted me and another friend of mine in particular to lead these things because they wanted the girls to be interested in it. So they were leveraging sexuality for their own benefit. I've seen the same thing in young life groups where they discourage, you can't be a young life leader if you're openly gay or practicing you can be gay, but you can't be practicing homosexuality, which I don't know what the fuck that even means. What the fuck does
that even mean?
I don't know. It was weird. It's some obscure thing, but they play the game where they put the orange underneath their like chin and neck. Have you seen that?
No.
So basically we're sitting here like face to face. Like I would put an orange underneath my neck or a grapefruit or some shit and hold it down. And then we would pass it like neck to neck. So you're like passing it underneath your chin. So if you can imagine like you're interlocking like chins and necks. So you're like, looks like you're making out essentially. And they're doing this at this young life group with alternating guy girl groups. I'm like, do you not understand that you're like leveraging sexuality to have like a fun game? The only reason this game is fun is because you're like really close to people of the opposite sex, like essentially whispering in their ears, like rubbing into each other to like trade off fruit. It's like, but you're shaming someone for their like sexual behavior. It was just a weird.
That's interesting.
It's such a weird deal. I'm like, you guys need you all need to take a step back and look at what you're doing here because you're actually onto something with a lot of y'all, with a lot of the beliefs. It's just why are you having to do it through the lens of shame?
Yeah,
I don't know, it's weird.
And it's interesting. I respect it. I respect people who are like doing that, and I've like found something for myself that works really well. And I'm just gonna do me, you know.
I think you should keep doing you.
It's fun. I like being me. I have fun.
All right. So, what does your inner child love to do? Have you ever talked about this?
Oh my god.
I want to hear about. I feel like
she fucking loves like slip and slide. She loves being in the water. She loves dancing. She loves laughing. She loves being silly. She loves just being reckless. Like, I'm super reckless.
Yeah.
I'm responsible, but I'm reckless. Like, I just like, I love destruction. I love like creation and destruction. I love like anything fast. Like, I love doing everything fast.
Yeah.
Like, I love speed. I
like
love
fast cars and jumping out of airplanes.
Fast cars, jumping out of airplanes, having sex fast, like doing everything fast.
What do you mean having sex fast?
I don't know, just having fast sex.
So
I just threw that one in there for good measure.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking. I was like, okay, whatever. Go a lot of directions. You want to go jump out of an airplane later?
Yeah.
Is there a skydive place around here?
Yeah, there is. Do you actually want to do that
today?
Maybe.
I'm down. We can do a quick reservation. Yeah, I would do that.
Would
Anyways,
you actually?
Let's go back to the podcast. Let's forget.
We like peace out. We're like, okay, bye. Okay,
anyway,
and this is done. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. We're out.
I think we could do this for a long time. We should do this more often. We may need to do another one of these before it's all said and done. Oh no, you're leaving. Shit. Anyways, all right, Sam. So for real. This has been really fucking fun. And what I want to do is give the Pleasure Monkey crowd Sam Skelly's 3 hot tips to having a great day.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Hot tips.
Okay.
You got to roll it's like 3 S's on that, by the way.
Hot tips. So my 3 hot tips for having a great day. I'm gonna go a little abstract here. How about that?
Ooh.
Just like find the shit that you feel shameful about and laugh at it. It'll make you have a great day.
Yeah.
Like for real. Or the thing that you fear. The thing that you fear, the thing that you feel shameful for.
So just laugh at a fear. That's one.
Like laugh at a fear.
Start your day off with that.
Yeah.
All right, what's 2?
Because then it alkalizes it.
Alkalize, bam.
I think so for me, like my like morning church is like the time I spend with myself in the morning. And like that's what sets me up. And like no one can fuck with that time. It's like I get up, I go to CrossFit, I read, I do my journaling, I do my like ecstatic dance, I meditate, I lay on my ground naked because the sun comes in and then I can tan.
Good, I'm with it.
Right? And that sets me up. And then I don't do superficial conversations. I don't do that. And so I just go deep into like connection with like multiple humans intimately, not sexually intimately, but like connection every single day.
Okay. So let's wrap that up into 3 bullet points because I want to do something with this.
Okay. So
laugh at your fears. Laugh at a fear.
Morning routine.
Find your routine. Yeah.
And intimate connection.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Bam.
Yeah.
Sam's hot tips for a great day.
Sam, Jam Ram.
Well, thanks for hanging out, and I'm excited to hang out with you the rest of the day.
I think I need a shower now.
I think I do too. It's been a hell of a trip. All right, guys. Where's Sam? Where can everybody find you?
www.hungryforhappiness.com, and then on the Instagrams, I'm at Samantha Skelly, and at Hungry for Happiness.
Samantha Skelly's Instagram stories are fire.
Are they?
They're so funny. Check her out, guys. She's an awesome human being. She's doing great things. And we'll see you next time, love.
See you later.
Peace. Thanks for checking out the show today, everybody. If you love what we got going on, head on over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review, and subscribe to the show. And if you're looking for a place to just share your experience, be authentic, learn from others, and really express yourself, head over to Facebook and check out Pleasure Monkey Life Facebook group. It is a closed group, but right now we were doing free access. So all you have to do, find the group, request access, and I will personally let you in. In that group, we share articles, other podcasts, books, and I do a weekly live call where we just do Q&A and talk about what everybody wants to talk about that week. So it's a great time. Check it out. That is the Pleasure Monkey Life Facebook group on Facebook, of course. Check it out, guys. Request access. Would love to have you on board, and I hope to see you there. We will see y'all next time. Have a great week.